as other countries, including Sudan, declare another problem: cholera. Anger and protests spread in Tunisia over the detention of several opposition figures and critics of the president, despite the country's election commission declaring October 6th as the polling day, with Kais Saied running for a new term. And Ethiopia's traditional sauna therapy gains big city popularity, with Addis Ababans creating a buzz on social media about the benefits. World of Africa at these times on WION.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
Hello and welcome. You're watching WION World is One and this is World DNA. Let's start with the headlines first. German police arrest a man suspected of killing 3 people in a knife attack in Solingen. One other man arrested, 15-year-old detained. Islamic State claim responsibility for the attack. Gaza peace talk resumes in Cairo, with negotiators taking up the new Israel-Hamas compromise proposals. Key hostages hold fresh protests in Tel Aviv, urging the U.S. to pressure PM Netanyahu to reach a deal. Five civilians killed as Ukraine shells southwest Russia's Belgorod region, says the region's governor. Zelensky touts newly developed Ukrainian drone missile at Ukraine's Independence Day event. CBI carries out raid at the house of the ex-principal of Ajit Kad Hospital, Sandeep Ghosh. An FIR for corruption was filed against Ghosh on Saturday. Billionaire founder and CEO of the Telegram messaging app, Pavel Durov, arrested outside Paris. Police say they are probing lack of moderators on Telegram, allowing undeterred criminal activity. Boeing's rival SpaceX will bring home the 2 astronauts from the International Space Station in February in next year, says NASA. Boeing's Starliner that took them there will return uncrewed. Heavy security in place as nearly 3 million Shiite Muslims marched to Iraq's Karbala in the Arabian pilgrimage, marking the death of the Prophet's grandson, is the world's largest annual public gathering. Son Heung-min scores a brace as Tottenham comfortably brushes aside Everton to secure their first Premier League win of the season. All right, after a day-long manhunt, German police has arrested the man suspected of stabbing rampage in the western German town of Solingen, which left 3 dead, 8 others injured. The Islamic State group claimed responsibility for the knife attack. The militant group, in a statement on Telegraph, called the man who carried out the attack a soldier of the Islamic State and said he was seeking revenge for Muslims in Palestine and elsewhere. The attacker struck as thousands of people gathered for the first night of a festival of diversity, which is a part of a series of events to mark Zolingen's 650th anniversary. According to North Rhine-Westphalia's interior minister, the suspected killer is now in custody and is being questioned. He was arrested in a raid at a hostel for asylum seekers. While his motive and identity is still not clear, a member of the anti-immigrant far-right AfD criticized Friday's attack and posted on social media X, "Do you really want to get used to this? Free yourself and this insanity of forced multiculturalism," unquote. AfD has a chance of winning the regional elections scheduled for next week. It is important to know that Germany took in more than 1 million asylum seekers in 2015-2016 at the height of Europe's migrant crisis. The influx deeply divisive and fueled the popularity of AfD. Meanwhile, manhunt continues across France to find the person behind the explosion outside a synagogue in the south of the country on Saturday. Now, security around Jewish sites has been tightened after the blast outside the Beth Yaakov synagogue in the seaside resort of La Grande Motte near the city of Montpellier. The blast occurred during Shabbat, the Jewish day of rest that runs from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday, and often when many attend synagogue services. Reports say no religious services were ongoing at the time of the incident. According to reports, 2 cars outside the synagogue burst into flames after a gas canister likely exploded inside one of the vehicles. In the moments leading to the explosion, CCTV footage revealed an unidentified man brandishing a Palestinian flag and a scarf. He was also reportedly carrying yellowish substance in 2 bottles and a handgun. In the aftermath, French President Emmanuel Macron called the incident an act of terror, while Interior Minister said that the narrowly avoided an absolute tragedy. He said France's national anti-terror prosecutors had been tasked with probing the incident.
Des premiers éléments dont nous disposons, nous pouvons considérer que
Firstly, the commander told us the first elements, particularly from the video surveillance, suggesting that the assailant was extremely determined and that if the synagogue had been full of worshippers at that time, if people had got out of the building in the first few minutes, there would probably have been casualties.
Meanwhile, the representative of Council of Jewish Institutions in France, or CRIF, condemned the explosion as an attempt to kill Jews. France and rest of Europe are on high alert following the fires and explosions. This comes amid increasing cases of anti-Semitism owing to the war in Gaza. According to Interior Ministry, France has witnessed over 850 acts of anti-Semitism in the first half of 2024, which is almost 3 times more than what it was in the same period last year.
Non, le dispositif en fait va reculer, donc voilà. OK.
Now, diplomatic efforts to halt the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza have intensified. Talks mediated by the U.S., Egypt, and Qatar got underway in Cairo on Saturday, following a 2-day meeting in Doha last week. The Hamas group has said that while it is sending delegates to Cairo, it will not take part in the discussions. A senior Hamas official said the delegation will only meet with senior Egyptian officials for updates on the negotiations. Hamas insists that Israel withdraws all its forces from Gaza, including from the border area with Egypt, known as the Philadelphia Corridor. The United States, Egypt, and Qatar have for months trying to broker an end to the war in Gaza between Hamas, Palestinian militants, and Israel. The White House said progress had been made at the latest round this week. However, the possible permanent presence of Israeli troops along the Gaza-Egypt border has emerged as a major sticking point. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has, however, insisted on keeping troops along the corridor. Netanyahu has asserted that Israel needs to prevent Hamas from rebuilding its strength by smuggling in arms from Egypt. Meanwhile, family members of Israeli hostages held in Gaza continue to await the return of their loved ones. They gathered in Tel Aviv on Saturday and addressed the U.S. President Joe Biden in a call for help, accusing Netanyahu of deceit and manipulation for personal and political gain. They have urged Biden to put all possible pressure on him in order to secure a deal this week.
We'd like to address President Biden directly and say, Netanyahu has been systematically torpedoing this deal. You cannot believe a word he says. He will keep lying and deceiving you. He will tell you one thing, then do the opposite, all for his own personal, political, and criminal motives. He will toss a spark of hope your way, then continue with his delays and sabotage, just as he always does.
Even as ceasefire talks resume, fighting rages in Gaza. Now, civil defense rescue sources reported ongoing Israeli artillery fire and airstrikes across the Hamas-run territory. In Gaza city of Zaytun neighborhood, gunfire and explosions echoed as Palestinian militants clashed with Israeli soldiers. An overnight strike on a house west of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza killed 11 people, including a woman and 4 children. Gaza's health authorities have reported a devastating toll from the past 24 hours, with 69 lives lost and 212 people injured due to ongoing Israeli military operations. The death toll in Gaza since the outbreak of the conflict in October has crossed 40,000 and over 93,000 have been injured. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Adrian Calmel from New York. He's a fellow at Arabian Peninsula Institute. Now, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, talks have intensified as sticking points remain. U.S. has said they are close, but what do you think on this?
It's a great question. I really don't think they're close. When we look at this entire ordeal that started on October 7th, this war that was kicked off, as soon as I heard that there were hostages involved, I knew that this was going to be a war of a different nature, mainly because of the whole hostage component. And for the hostages to be released, that was going to be Israel's #1 objective. And that needs to be first and foremost with any type of negotiations. With Hamas, they understand that those hostages are leverage, and that's really the only thing that's keeping them from holding on. They are hanging on by a thread. Not many fighters left. Their upper core echelon's been decimated, and the reroutes, supply lines have been shut down. So this is kind of end days for Hamas. But this is a much wider war that we're looking at.
Now, Israel, by this, of course, we also know that Iran has been suspected of attacking. Now, there's the Lebanon border that's going on, the fighting going on. How is the situation for Israel as of now?
Another great question, and it's really, I think, if Israel military planners, if they were looking at this, I think if they're realistically looking at this and the country's looking at this, they're ready for the next war or the next front. But they really need a pause. They need a break. They need to finish up the Gaza campaign. This campaign in Gaza is unlike any war that Israel has ever fought, which has always been done with lightning quick speed. This is dragged on for 10 months, and that goes with resupplying munitions, Iron Dome, things to ensure the safety of the population. So.
Now, the Philadelphia corridor has become a sticking point. How important do you think that corridor is?
That is critical. Okay, so before October 7th and when October 7th happened, everybody's saying, well, how did that happen? Egypt has always told us that those corridors, those tunnels were all closed, that there's no way that weapons could have gotten in there. Well, in fact, they were getting in there, and they continued to get resupplied during the war. So Israel needs to be able to control that. If Egypt cannot control that border, which they have proven they have not been able to, then Israel needs to be able to control that to make sure that Hamas does not get resupply of weaponry.
Right, and that's interesting because Egyptians are also trying to work out a ceasefire deal.
It is interesting, and I think part of it, and you have to take a look at the Egyptian government. You know, they're culpable in part of this. You have to recognize that they knew that this was going on, that there was smuggling, and there's elements that are making money off this. That's what smuggling is all about. So Egypt, I think, is worried about saving face to a certain degree, and there was a lot of struggle over that Philadelphia border between Israel and Egypt, and a lot of contention because I think Egypt didn't want them to see what was actually there.
All right. That was Adrian Calmel joining us. Thank you so much for joining us and giving your opinions.
Thank you again.
Well, moving to India, investigation continues into the rape and murder of trainee doctor at Kolkata's RG Kar Hospital. In the latest, the CBI has turned up the heat on former principal of the hospital, Sandeep Ghosh. The probe agency has carried out a raid at his house in Kolkata. The CBI is investigating allegations of corruption against the ex-principal and had registered an FIR against him yesterday. The probe was earlier being conducted by the SIT constituted by the West Bengal government. As per the order of the court, all documents pertaining to the alleged financial irregularities in RG Kar Hospital and College were handed over to the CBI. Meanwhile, the polygraph test of primary suspect Sanjay Roy was postponed and is now likely to be conducted today. CBI officials say the test could not be conducted on Saturday due to technical issues and insufficient arrangements by the jail administration. Meanwhile, polygraph tests for 6 other individuals related to the case are underway at the CBI office in Kolkata. This includes the former principal of RG Kar Hospital and College, Sandeep Ghosh. The lie detection or polygraph test is also being conducted on 1 civic volunteer and 4 doctors of the RG Kar Hospital. According to police, the doctors allegedly had dinner with the victim a day before the crime. A special forensic experts team from Delhi arrived in Kolkata to conduct the test. This comes after the Central Bureau of Investigation got the approval nod for the test from a Kolkata court. The lie detection test can only be conducted after obtaining the court's and suspect's consent. When the judge asked the accused why he was consenting to the polygraph test, Sanjay Roy reportedly broke down before the judge, claiming that he was innocent. He was quoted saying that he is being framed and the test will prove that. The prime accused was also sent to 14 days judicial custody by the Kolkata court. He will remain in judicial custody until September 6th under the supervision of the CBI. But the suspect's mother and his lawyer have also claimed that he is being framed. His mother has even said that he was a topper. She insists that many people were involved in the crime. Sanjay Roy is currently the only person arrested in connection with the crime. However, the victim's father also suspects that more than one person was involved. He believes that Sanjay Roy may be a scapegoat in an alleged cover-up. With these developments, the ongoing investigation is gaining significance by the minute. As the probe continues, the parents of the victim have alleged in that they believe that the department and other doctors know about the details of the incident and they are silent out of fear.
हम तो पूरा विश्वास है कि जो अंदर में जो आदमी जो सब लड़का लड़की है और जो डिपार्टमेंट है वो सब जानता है। उसको पकड़ने से पूरा विश्वास सामने आ जाएगा।
डिपार्टमेंट से कौन कौन लोगों के ऊपर आपकी संदेह है?
डिपार्टमेंट जो उसको चार्ज जूनियर था, एक दीदी को 15-20 मिनट अंदर उसको जरूरत पड़ता है, लेकिन वो 7 घंटा से उसके बारे में कुछ नहीं जानता है। ये हमको बहुत दुख हो रहा है इस बात पर। वो सब जानता है लेकिन वो नहीं बोल रहा है, कोई घबरा हुआ है, तो मतलब बहुत हो सकता है ऐसा कुछ प्रॉब्लम है कॉलेज में।
The incident and the delay in its proceedings have sparked nationwide outrage. Demonstrations have continued for nearly 2 weeks now. On Saturday, psychology students in Kolkata staged a protest overnight demanding speedy justice. Drivers of app-based cab services in Kolkata also took out a rally. All right, moving on. Boeing's arch rival SpaceX will bring astronauts Sunita Williams and Perry Wilmore back to Earth, and this will happen in February. NASA deemed issues of propulsion system on Boeing's Starliner too risky to carry the crew home as planned. Now, here is more.
Has decided that Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February.
NASA Chief Bill Nelson on Saturday said the 2 NASA astronauts who flew to the International Space Station in June aboard Boeing's faulty Starliner capsule will return to Earth on a SpaceX vehicle early next year. Nelson said the agency's decision is a result of their commitment to safety, as issues with Starliner's propulsion system made it too risky to carry the astronauts home.
Our core value is safety, and it is our North Star.
Veteran NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams became the first crew to ride the Boeing spacecraft on June 5th in what was expected to be an 8-day test mission. Boeing had hoped the mission would redeem the troubled Starliner program after years of development and budget problems. The company scrambled to investigate what caused its thruster mishaps and helium leaks and tried to convince NASA officials that Starliner is safe to fly the crew home. However, results from tests and simulations raised more questions. Nelson said he discussed the agency's decision with Boeing's new CEO, Kelly Ortberg, who expressed his intention of continuing to work on Starliner's problems when it returns to Earth. Starliner will undock from the ISS without a crew in early September.
All right, let's take a closer look at the financial reality of India's growing gig economy. A new survey sheds light on the challenges faced by gig workers, from low earnings to lack of financial literacy. Take a look at this next report for more.
A vast army of gig workers is powering India's on-demand economy. But beneath the surface of convenience and flexibility lies a stark reality. Many of these workers are struggling to make ends meet. Recent data from a Borso survey reveals that 77.6% of gig delivery workers earn less than 2.5 lakh rupees annually. The survey, which included over 2,000 workers from major platforms like Zomato, Swiggy, Uber and Amazon, shows a significant lack of tax awareness. 61% of respondents admitted they were unaware of income tax brackets, and 66.5% have never filed income tax returns. Even among those who do file, 66% report zero tax liability. This reflects broader issues in financial literacy and tax compliance within the workforce. The survey also sheds light on the investment habits of gig workers. A vast majority, 77%, do not invest in mutual funds, and 74% avoid the stock market altogether. For those who do invest, the amounts are generally small. Most mutual fund investors contribute between 500 and 1000 rupees monthly. Long-term financial planning appears to be a low priority. Only 24% of gig workers invest in public provident fund accounts and 65% lack any form of life insurance. India's gig workforce is rapidly expanding. Niti Aayog projects it to reach 25 million by 2030, growing at an annual rate of nearly 12%. However, this growth is accompanied by significant challenges in tax compliance and financial planning. Addressing these financial literacy gaps and improving compliance will be crucial for ensuring the long-term sustainability and well-being of this burgeoning workforce. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
That's all on World DNA. Do stay tuned. More news and updates will follow on the other side. You're watching WION World is One. Stay tuned.
Ukraine's grinding counter-offensive continues. Russia advances in Pokrovsk amid Ukraine's gains. Will Zelensky's buffer zone tactic pay off, or has Ukraine walked into Putin's trap? Continuous coverage on WION.
This week on Tech It Out, we explain how deepfakes can jeopardize the integrity of elections. We tell you about the latest advancements in robotics and automation. And we give you a sneak peek into what visitors can expect at the Nintendo Museum. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
This week on Inside South Asia, the Kolkata rape and murder exposes failures on many fronts. From the horrific crime against women to the attempted cover-up by authorities. Will justice be delivered? A new administration is in place in Bangladesh. We take a look at the social, economical, and political changes in the country. Witness the rich culture and tradition of Sri Lanka's Temple of the Truth procession in Kandy. The film Superboys of Malagao all set to be celebrated at the Toronto International Film Festival. All this and much more on Inside South Asia.
On Wings this week, a journey across India's most legendary tea-growing regions. From the north to the south, where tea tourism is on the rise. We also cover flower festivals and cultural events from China to South America, as well as the latest tourism developments from the African continent. Only on WION World is One.
The number of shows and films based on video games continues to rise.
No problem.
We decode the movie genre for you. Take a look at the most anticipated Hollywood films of the year and learn some lesser-known facts about Hollywood's amazing Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times, only on WION eClub.
This week on the West Asia Post. Diplomatic efforts have been scaled up to avert a wider regional war. The US is pressing Israel to plug the gaps in the ceasefire deal. The Hamas is calling for implementing the terms agreed on Gaza. Meanwhile, without a truce deal in Gaza, Iran has warned that it will attack Israel. And as West Asia remains on edge over a potential escalation of the conflict, this UAE city is only getting richer. This and more on the West Asia Post.
Shortly after declaring it a global emergency, the World Health Organization is rushing to find vaccines to control the spread of Mpox as other countries, including Sudan, declare another problem: cholera. Anger and protests spread in Tunisia over the detention of several opposition figures and critics of the president, despite the country's election commission declaring October 6th as the polling day, with Kais Saied running for a new term. And Ethiopia's traditional sauna therapy gains big city popularity, with Addis Ababans creating a buzz on social media about the benefits. World of Africa at these times on WION.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Jyotsna Kumar. Let's start with the headlines first. German police arrest a man suspected of killing 3 people in a knife attack in Solingen. One other man arrested. 15